My name is Maya Collins, and I'm 31 years old. The night my life quietly split into a before and after didn't start with a dramatic confrontation or some cinematic reveal. It started with a sentence. "You don't trust me. You're always checking up on me." Ryan said it like a line he'd rehearsed in the mirror. Flat, precise, sharpened. The ironic part? All I'd done was ask why my boyfriend was walking into my apartment building's parking garage at almost 11:30 on a Tuesday night, looking like he'd just stepped out of someone else's life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 8 months earlier, I met Ryan Mitchell, 29, at a coffee shop downtown. I was there with my laptop, pretending to work on a deck for my job while mostly people watching. He walked in wearing a button-down and jeans, hair a little messed, like he'd run his hands through it too many times, tie loosened just enough to seem casual. He ordered coffee, then stood near my table while he waited. I felt his eyes on my screen. "Spreadsheet or novel?" he asked. "Spreadsheet," I said. "Unfortunately." He smiled, warm and focused, the kind of smile that makes you feel like you've just been singled out in a good way. "I'm sorry." We got talking. He was smart, funny, quick with a joke, but not in a way that felt forced. He asked follow-up questions, remembered little things I said, made me feel like I was the only person in the room. We exchanged numbers. By the third date, I was already a little too invested. He'd cooked for me, remembered I liked my pasta extra garlicky, brought my favorite brand of sparkling water like it was no big deal. He walked me to my car, waited until I was inside, waved as I drove away. That night, over takeout on my couch, was when he dropped it. "There's something I should probably tell you," he said, eyes on the half-empty pad thai container instead of on me. His voice had that careful tone people use when they're setting up a story they're scared will send you running. "Okay," I said, bracing myself for a wife, a kid, a secret bankruptcy, one of the usual landmines. "I have a stalker," he said quietly. "An ex-girlfriend. Her name is Melissa." He said ex-girlfriend like it tasted bitter. I remember every detail. The way his hand tightened around his fork. The way his knee bounced once, then stilled. The way he didn't look at me at first, like he was ashamed. "We dated for about 6 months last year," he went on. "When I ended it, she just snapped. Started showing up everywhere. My building, my job, places I'd casually mentioned wanting to check out." He reached for his phone with trembling fingers and slid closer on the couch. "I'm not telling you this to scare you," he said. "I just don't want you blindsided if you ever see her, or if she tries to talk to you." He opened his messages. There they were, dozens, no, hundreds of texts. "I miss you. We belong together. I saw you today. You look so handsome. Why won't you answer me?" Then darker ones. "You can't hide from me. I know your schedule. You'll regret this." My stomach twisted. I'm not small, but I'm not exactly intimidating either. I'm 5'6" on a good day with the right sneakers. I run. I do yoga. I'm not built for confrontations with unhinged strangers. "Ryan, oh my God." My voice sounded thin in my own ears. "Have you gone to the police?" His laugh was humorless. 3 times. Filed reports. They told me unless she physically does something, there's not much they can do. I'm working on a restraining order, but the courts are backed up. Paperwork, hearings, all that. He opened an email folder and handed me the phone. Scanned PDFs. Official-looking documents with case numbers. Officer names. The works. Incident. Harassment and stalking by former romantic partner. My chest tightened. He looked at me then, eyes shining, jaw tight like he was trying to contain emotion. "I get it if this is too much," he said. "Most people don't want this kind of drama in their lives. I wouldn't if I were you." Something in me snapped into place, not fear exactly, something protective. "I'm not most people," I said, before I could second-guess myself. "This isn't your fault. She sounds dangerous. We'll keep you safe." His eyes filled. "We?" "Yeah," I said, "we." He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for months. You have no idea how much that means. After that, everything shifted. He started staying over more because it felt safer at my place. At first, it was 2 or 3 nights a week. Then 4. Then I realized there were more of his clothes in my closet than in his. We changed up our routines. I walked him to his car after dates. I checked the back seat before he got in. We varied our routes home from the restaurant, from the grocery store, from the gym. I installed a camera at my front door and another in the hallway leading to my apartment. Every few weeks, he'd get another wave of texts from unknown numbers. He'd show me, hands shaking. "She's doing it again." I'd hold him while he cried into my shoulder. I slept light, waiting for some banging on the door, some shadow outside my window, the sound of glass breaking. 6 months of this. 6 months of alertness humming under my skin, of double-checking locks and scanning parking lots, of believing that loving him meant living inside his fear. Every once in a while, something wouldn't quite add up. A night he said he was too anxious to leave his apartment, but later posted a photo from a bar from last weekend. A story about Melissa showing up at his job, but when I asked what his manager did, the answer changed the next time he told it. A court date that got moved 3 times for vague reasons. Each time my brain nudged me, hey, that's weird, I smoothed it down. Trauma isn't linear, I'd tell myself. People misremember details when they're scared. I work in logistics, my brain loves timelines. Maybe I'm being too rigid, too critical. Besides, I'd seen the texts, the police reports, the trembling hands. Then one night, everything cracked. I was leaving the gym around 8. The parking lot lights painted everything in that harsh bluish white that makes every shadow look suspicious. I had my keys between my fingers like claws. Habit. After months of living with a stalker, orbiting our lives. I was halfway to my car when a woman stepped out from between 2 parked SUVs. "Are you Maya?" she asked. She was about my height, maybe a little shorter. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled into a messy bun that had definitely not started the day that way. She wore jeans and a loose sweatshirt, the kind of I-gave-up outfit you put on when your life has been slowly falling apart. "Yes," I said, instantly on guard. "Do I know you?" She swallowed. Her voice shook, but not with hysteria, with something worse. Exhaustion. "My name is Melissa," she said. "I know how this sounds, but I need 5 minutes of your time. It's about Ryan." My grip on my keys tightened. Every muscle in my body went taut. Ryan's stalker was standing in front of me. My first instinct was to back up and call the police, maybe call Ryan, tell him to stay away from the gym, from the parking lot, from... "Please," she said quickly, hands lifting in surrender when she saw my posture. "I'm not here to hurt you, I swear. She closed her eyes briefly. "I think something really messed up is going on. And I don't think you're the villain he says you are." The world tilted. "What did you just say?" My voice came out low and dangerous, a tone I barely recognized as mine. She looked straight at me then, eyes glassy but steady. "Did Ryan tell you I'm stalking him?" she asked. "Showing up everywhere, sending him threatening texts, ruining his life?" "Yes," I said. "He showed me the messages, the police reports, the restraining order paperwork." A bitter, broken laugh escaped her throat. "He showed me the messages too," she said. "Except in my version, you're the stalker. His obsessive ex who won't let him move on. He showed me police reports with your name on them." My brain stuttered. "What?" "I know how insane this sounds," she said. "I know approaching you in a parking lot makes me look exactly like what he says I am. But I think we've both been living inside the same lie. Just from opposite sides." My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. "Start from the beginning," I said, "but not here." There was a 24-hour diner off the highway 2 blocks away, neon sign buzzing, vinyl booths, neutral territory. We stood there in the cold parking lot, 2 women who were supposed to be enemies, staring at each other over the wreckage of a story we hadn't yet fully seen. "Okay," Melissa said finally, "let's go talk." Together we walked toward the diner, my protective instincts shifting, slowly, sickeningly, from Ryan, away from him. And for the first time in 6 months, I felt something stronger than fear. Suspicion. The diner looked exactly like the place where bad news goes to sit under fluorescent lights and congeal. Chrome edges on the counter, faded posters of milkshakes, a neon sign that buzzed just a bit too loud. The kind of place where the coffee is always burnt and nobody asks why you're there at 9 at night with your life falling apart in your lap. We slid into a booth near the back. I took the side facing the door out of habit. Melissa sat across from me, shoulders hunched, fingers wrapped around the laminated menu like it could anchor her. A server came by and did the waitress equivalent of a double take. 2 women with storm cloud faces and no small talk. Melissa ordered coffee. I did too, mostly so we'd be left alone. For a second, neither of us spoke. Up close, I could see the details I'd missed in the parking lot. The tiny stress line between her brows, the chipped pink nail polish, the way her sweatshirt sleeves were stretched out at the cuffs, like she'd been twisting them a lot. This was the woman who'd been haunting my sleep for 6 months, the monster in the story. She just looked tired. "Okay," I said finally, forcing my voice to be steady. "You said Ryan told you I was the stalker." She exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding that breath since the parking lot. Yeah, she said, he did. She pulled her phone out and set it on the table between us, screen down. For a second, she just stared at it. I met him about 14 months ago, she began, at a work conference in Chicago. He was at a vendor booth. I was there for my company. We got talking. He was charming, funny, attentive, all that. We started texting, then calling. Long distance for a while. My stomach did a slow, cold turn. 14 months. Ryan had told me his relationship with Melissa ended last year, like it was some distant chapter. Not overlapping with me. Not close. He came to visit my city a couple of times, she said. Then, about 6 or 7 months ago, he told me he'd been offered a job here, said it was perfect timing, that we could finally be in the same place. I remembered him telling me, around the same time, that his company was restructuring, that he'd been placed at a branch here, but technically he'd been in this city on and off for a while. Melissa's voice went flatter, more mechanical, like she'd told this part too many times in her head. He moved into this apartment complex across town, she said. We started spending a lot of time together. Then, after a couple months, he dropped the bomb. I almost didn't ask. I already knew, but I needed to hear it. What bomb? I asked. She looked up at me, eyes ringed in red. His stalker ex-girlfriend, she said. You. My stomach lurched. He told me he'd dated you before, Melissa continued. Said when he ended it, you lost it. Started showing up at his building at his job, sending him threatening texts. Said you were obsessed and couldn't accept that it was over. I wanted to deny it on instinct, to say that never happened, that I'd never even known him that long ago. But this wasn't about what I knew. This was about what we'd both been told. He told me he'd gone to the police, she said, that they couldn't do much without a physical threat, but he'd filed reports. He said he was working on a restraining order. He looked scared. Her mouth twisted. He showed me documents, emails with PDFs attached, case numbers, officer signatures. It looked real. Our coffees arrived then, steaming and dark. The server asked if we wanted cream or sugar. We both shook our heads at the same time, automatic. Melissa took a sip, winced, kept going. I started helping him, she said quietly, walking him to his car, letting him crash at my place when he said your car was in the neighborhood. He'd get waves of texts. Sometimes he'd disappear into the bathroom to read them, come out shaking. He said it was you. I swallowed hard. What did the text say? She flipped her phone over and tapped a few times. Then she turned it so the screen faced me. At the top of the thread was a name, Maya. Under it, a number I'd never seen in my life. The messages were familiar and not. Not the same wording I'd seen under Melissa on Ryan's phone, but the same cadence. I'll find you wherever you go. You can't hide from me. If I can't have you, no one will. A chill split my spine. That isn't my number, I said, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. I've never seen that number. I've never sent those. I know, she said softly, because I never sent the ones you saw either. The diner's background noise receded. The clink of silverware, the murmur of conversations, the hiss of the grill. Everything felt muffled, like we were underwater. How long have you two been together? I asked. 14 months, she said. On and off when it was long distance, but committed, according to him, since he moved here. You? 8 months, I said. He asked me to be exclusive about 3 months in. Said he didn't want any ambiguity. Melissa let out that same bitter, humorless laugh I'd heard in the parking lot. Yeah, she said. He told me the same thing. No ambiguity. We sat there doing the math in silence. It didn't work. It couldn't work. Unless... Show me the police reports, I said. She nodded like she'd been waiting for that. She went back to her email app, pulled up a thread, and handed me the phone. The subject line of one email read, Report copy for your records. The attached PDF opened to a familiar format. City Police Department Incident Report. Complainant, Ryan Mitchell. Type, harassment while stalking. Further down in the narrative section was my name, my full name, spelled correctly, my address. Words describing me as an ex-girlfriend who refuses to accept the end of the relationship. I felt sick. Okay, I said, here. My hands shook as I pulled out my own phone, opened in the email folder Ryan had shown me that night on my couch, and found the same type of subject line. Report copy, stalker ex-girlfriend. I slid my phone to her. She opened the attached PDF. Her eyes flicked back and forth, scanning, her jaw clenched. There it was. Same formatting, same font, slightly different narrative block. This time, the suspect was Melissa. Her address, her workplace, the phrase unstable ex-girlfriend underlined. We compared the two side by side, phones pressed together in the middle of the table like some grotesque mirror. The headers were identical. The officer names and badge numbers, too. The case numbers were the same series with a different last digit. That's not how that works, she muttered. Case numbers aren't sequential like that for totally different incidents months apart. I was already opening a browser tab. What are you doing? She asked. Checking the case numbers, I said. If these are real, they should show up somewhere in the public database, or at least some reference to them. We typed them in, hers first, then mine. The search results came back empty. No record, no incident, nothing. I tried the officer's name, nothing tied to that case number. Melissa leaned back in the booth, eyes closing for a second. They're fake, she said, voice hollow. He made fake police reports for both of us. I thought of him sitting on my couch, hands shaking, eyes glossy with fear, the way he'd leaned into my chest, let me hold him like I was his shield. My stomach dropped straight through the vinyl seat. What about the restraining order? I asked. Did he show you anything? She nodded slowly. He said he was filing one against you, showed me court paperwork, said he needed money for filing fees and time off work for hearings. She swallowed. I gave him some, a few hundred here and there. It added up. More tabs, different database, county court records. I searched my name, hers, his. No restraining orders, no pending cases, nothing. Unbelievable, I whispered. Actually, she said, a sharpness creeping into her tone, it's very believable now. Silence settled between us again, but this time it wasn't shocked. It was calculating. How much have you given him? I asked. She stared down at the table, cheeks flushing with shame that wasn't hers to carry. He told me his anxiety was so bad he couldn't work full-time, she said quietly, that he was scared you'd show up at his office. I picked up extra shifts, helped with his rent when he said your harassment was making it hard to keep up. She blew out a breath. I send him about $1,100 a month, for the last 6 months. I blinked. His rent is $950, I said automatically. She looked up fast. How do you know that? I looked up average one-bedroom prices in that building online, I said. I'm in logistics. I can't not research numbers. I thought he was struggling and wanted to see if it made sense. I swallowed. You've been overpaying his rent. Her jaw clenched. So he's been living off me. And off me, I said softly. I pay for most of our groceries. I cover a lot of dinners because I make more. He's been staying at my place at least 5 nights a week. I thought I was helping him feel safe. We sat there in a stunned, horrible equilibrium, both cataloging invisible losses. Time, money, sleep, trust. Melissa broke the silence. We need to confront him, she said. Together. No more letting him control the narrative. I nodded slowly. The idea of seeing him again made something inside me recoil, but hiding felt worse. Where? I asked. He thinks I'm out of town this weekend for a work thing, she said. But he's staying at his actual apartment, not your place. Friday, 7 p.m. We both show up. He won't expect both of us. I could almost see it, the look on his face when his lies collided in front of him. We need to have everything ready, I said, my practical brain kicking in like muscle memory. Screenshots, payment records, a timeline. If he tries to gaslight us, I want dates. Her eyes sharpened. Agreed. We exchanged numbers. I started a shared note on my phone and slid it to her. Let's build it now, I said. From the beginning, what day you met, when he moved here, when I met him. Every major lie we can remember. For the next hour, we pieced it together. Flights, photos, texts, dates of stalker incidents. The more we wrote, the clearer the pattern became. 2 parallel relationships, 1 recycled story, a rotating villain. By the time we were done, my coffee was cold. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I walked out of that diner knowing 2 things. Ryan wasn't a victim, and tomorrow night he wasn't going to be in control of the story anymore. When I got home, my apartment felt different. Same furniture, same walls, same hallway camera still blinking softly, but the air had shifted. His hoodie was draped over the back of my couch, his sneakers lined up by the door, his toothbrush in my bathroom cup. Artifacts from a relationship that had never really existed. I gathered his sweatshirt and shoes and set them by the door in a neat pile. Not out of kindness, out of closure. In bed, I stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying every tear, every tremble, every, I don't know what I'd do without you. Sleep never really came. Just a shallow drift filled with images of 2 phone screens pressed together, 2 fake reports, 2 stalkers who had never been stalkers at all. At 3:17 a.m., I finally stopped pretending to rest. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock, I was going to knock on Ryan Mitchell's door, and this time, I wouldn't be there to protect him. Friday arrived like a storm I'd been watching crawl across the sky for days. Slow, heavy, inevitable. I didn't go into work that morning. I sat at my kitchen counter with my laptop open, pretending to answer emails while my mind replayed every lie Ryan had ever told. My apartment felt unfamiliar, like a place where a stranger had lived with me and left fingerprints everywhere. Every time I saw something of his sock half tucked under my bed, his notebook on my desk, the stupid mug he insisted coffee tasted better in, my stomach tightened. At 2:14 p.m., Melissa texted, "Melissa, leaving work early. Need to prep. How are you holding up?" I stared at the message for a long moment before replying. Me, numb, focused, ready. I wasn't sure any of that was true, but it was the version of myself I wanted to be. By late afternoon, the shared document we'd made had tripled in size. Dates, timestamps, screenshots from both our phones, bank transfers Melissa had made, pictures Ryan had posted with different captions to each of us. It was like stitching together a monster from scraps. At 5:30, I finally forced myself into the shower. I let the water run too hot, hoping the heat would calm the shaking in my hands. It didn't. By 6:45, I was standing in Ryan's apartment parking lot, leaning against my car, arms crossed to keep myself steady. Melissa pulled in a minute later, stepping out with a tight jaw and her keys clenched between her fingers, just in case. She didn't have to say anything, neither did I. The solidarity and silence was strangely grounding. We approached the building side by side. The elevator ride to the third floor felt like being lowered into something dark and bottomless. Every floor beep made my heart jump. By the time we reached the hallway, my pulse was in my throat. Melissa stopped outside his door and inhaled deeply. "You ready?" she asked. I wasn't, not even close. But I said, "Yeah." She knocked. 3 seconds of silence. 5, 7. Then footsteps. Ryan opened the door with his usual soft smile, the one that used to make me melt. Today, it made my blood go cold. "Maya," he said, surprised but pleased. "I thought you were working late." Then he saw Melissa. The smile froze. His pupils contracted just slightly, like he'd walked into bright light. "Oh," he said, not confused, calculating. "Wow, didn't expect a reunion." Melissa crossed her arms. Her face was stone. "Can we come in?" she asked. Ryan looked at her, then at me, then back at her, and something inside him flickered, a tiny glitch in the smooth performance he always wore. "But why would—" he began. "Don't," I said sharply. "Not one more lie, Ryan. Not today." His jaw tensed. He stepped aside. We walked in. His apartment was clean, too clean. No clutter anywhere. Everything boxed up neatly along the hallway wall. He'd known this was coming. Melissa noticed it too. Her gaze hardened. "Well," Ryan said, shutting the door with a soft click, "to what do I owe the pleasure of this little ambush?" "Ambush?" Melissa's voice cracked like ice. We compared stories. Something shifted in his expression. Barely, but I saw it. The faint twitch at the corner of his mouth. The flicker of annoyance. "I don't know what she told you," he said, gesturing toward me. "But Maya has been—" "You told me Melissa was stalking you," I cut in. "Showing up at your building, sending you threats. You showed me hundreds of texts. And you," Melissa added, "told me Maya was stalking you. That she was unstable, obsessed, wouldn't accept the breakup. You showed me fake police reports with her name on them." Ryan's face went still. Not shocked. Not scared. Just blank. The performance dropped. "Oh, God," he said in a sigh that wasn't even remotely convincing. "You two talked." "Of course we talked," Melissa snapped. "You made us both believe the other was dangerous." His eyes sharpened. "Did it ever occur to you that maybe you two shouldn't be comparing private conversations you had with me? That's invasive. Toxic, actually." My laugh was sharp, humorless. "You manipulated both of us. You faked police reports. You made us believe the other woman was stalking you, Ryan. This isn't private conversations. This is fraud." He rolled his eyes. "Fraud? Seriously? Wow, you're dramatic." Melissa's hands clenched. "You took $1,100 a month from me," she said quietly. "Told me you needed help paying rent because of Maya." "I never said you had to help," he said, shrugging. "You offered." "I offered because your stalker ex was supposedly ruining your ability to work." He smirked. "Well, it wasn't like I held a gun to your head." The casual cruelty of it hit like a fist. "And what about me?" I said, stepping forward. "You told me you were terrified to stay alone, Slept at my place almost every night. Let me check your back seat for 6 months. Let me install cameras. Let me hold you while you pretended to shake. He didn't blink. If you wanted to play hero, that's not my fault, he said. Some women like taking care of someone. You seemed into it. I stared at him. I had slept light for half a year, always listening for footsteps in the hallway, always waiting for danger that never existed. You disgust me, I whispered. He laughed. No, Melissa disgusts you, he said, nodding toward her. She's the one who... Don't, I snapped. Don't you dare try to pit us against each other again. His smile faltered. Which one of us were you planning to keep? Melissa asked suddenly. He blinked. Excuse me? You had boxes ready for me, she said, pointing toward the hallway. Were you planning to break up with me, or with her, or were you just going to keep juggling us until one of us walked away? Ryan's eyes flicked to the boxes just for a second. Then he straightened his posture. Look, he said, bored now. I dated you both. So what? People date multiple people. Not by faking stalkers, I snapped. Not by creating fake police reports, Melissa added. Ryan shrugged one shoulder, casual as a man explaining a parking ticket. Details. That was it. That was the moment I realized he believed everything he said. Not because it was true, but because he'd always gotten away with spinning the story so he came out clean. He didn't fear consequences. He didn't expect them. Melissa looked at the floor, breathing hard, fighting not to cry. I stepped closer to her instinctively. She didn't move away. Ryan saw it. His eyes narrowed. Wow, he said with a mocking smile. You two bonding? That's cute. Trauma sisters. I felt something inside me snap. This conversation is over, I said. We're done here. Melissa nodded, wiping a tear with the back of her hand. Yeah, we're done. She walked toward the door. I followed. Ryan leaned against the counter, arms crossed, posture loose and smug. Don't forget my hoodie, he said lazily, nodding toward the boxes he'd packed for himself. Or keep it. Whatever. I don't care. His indifference was so theatrical, it was almost pathetic. I opened the door. Melissa stepped into the hallway. Ryan called after us. You both think you're exposing me or something, he said. You're not. No one cares. My friends know the real story. They know you're liars. Good luck convincing anyone otherwise. I didn't turn around. At the elevator, Melissa pressed the button with shaking fingers. When the doors closed, she let out a breath like she'd been holding her ribs together. I can't believe I fell for him, she whispered. I didn't have an answer. We walked to our cars in silence. When she reached hers, she opened the door, then paused. I'm glad I met you, she said, voice soft, raw, even if it was through all of this. Me too, I said. We deserve to know the truth. She nodded once, then got in her car. I watched her drive away. Then I stood in the parking lot alone, breathing in the cold night air, letting it burn through the last of my illusions. Ryan Mitchell wasn't a victim. He was a conductor, and we were two instruments he'd played to create the same song. I drove home, deleted his number, blocked every known contact, and put his few remaining things in a box by my front door. For the first time in months, I slept. Not peacefully, no, not yet, but without fear. I woke up Saturday morning with a kind of emotional hangover, not from crying, but from the sheer weight of realizing I'd been living inside someone else's fiction. My apartment was too quiet, too still, like it was holding its breath along with me. I made coffee, stared at the steam rising from the mug, and waited for the inevitable. It didn't take long. At 9:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it ring. Then another. And another. By the third call, I knew it was Ryan. He had that desperation energy, the kind that doesn't accept silence for an answer. I blocked the number. 10 minutes later, a text came through from a different one. Ryan, unknown. We need to talk. You're being ridiculous. I deserve a chance to explain. I blocked it. The next number sent a paragraph-long message full of self-pity and blame. Blocked. By noon, I'd blocked 5 numbers. I spent the afternoon cleaning, something mindless to keep my hands busy, while my chest felt like a tightly coiled wire. I kept glancing at the door camera, half expecting him to show up with that soft, please just hear me out expression he used whenever he wanted to manipulate. At 1:37 p.m., Melissa texted, Melissa, he's blowing up my phone too. 6 numbers so far. Me. He'll burn through prepaid SIM cards before he admits anything. Melissa, he's not sorry. He's cornered. Me, exactly. By evening, the barrage slowed. For the first time all day, I exhaled, but the quiet didn't last. The friend group begins to unravel. Sunday afternoon, I walked into my favorite coffee shop and nearly collided with a familiar face. Ashley, one of Ryan's closest friends. She blinked at me, startled. I immediately braced for some defensive speech about how I'd ruined Ryan's life. Instead, her eyes softened. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Can we talk?" We stepped outside to the patio. Her hands were shaking. "Is it true?" she asked. "What Melissa said? That he was dating you both? That he lied about stalkers?" I didn't sugarcoat a thing. "It's all true, and we have proof." Ashley sank into her chair, covering her mouth with her hand. "He showed us police reports," she said. "We all felt so sorry for him. He said you were dangerous. And Melissa was obsessive. He said he couldn't sleep alone, that he didn't feel safe." "He said that to both of us," I said, at the same time. Ashley's eyes brimmed with guilt and disbelief. "He borrowed money from me," she admitted, "for filing fees, for court dates, for a security deposit he said he needed because Melissa kept showing up at his building." "You and Melissa covered his actual rent," I said quietly. "I didn't know until yesterday." She winced. "We all thought he was overwhelmed," she murmured. "He always had a new story about one of you harassing him. None of us questioned it." "He counted on that," I said. "He needed sympathy more than truth." Ashley let out a long, shaky breath. "I'm telling everyone," she said. "Our whole friend group needs to know." I nodded. She wasn't the enemy. She'd been played too. Before she left, she squeezed my arm. "I'm so sorry, Maya. We should have seen through him." "You weren't supposed to," I said gently. "He's good at this." She nodded like that truth hurt most of all. Ryan's mother enters the battle. That night, my phone rang again. An older woman's voice came through the line, sharp, accusatory, already mid-argument. "This is Helen, Ryan's mother. We need to talk about what you're doing to my son." My stomach tightened. "Ma'am, I'm not doing anything to your son," I said. "He lied to me." "He told me everything," she snapped. "You and that other girl are harassing him. You're spreading lies because he wouldn't choose you." I closed my eyes. Of course, the victim narrative, his favorite tool. "Helen," I said carefully, "your son was dating me and Melissa at the same time. He fabricated police reports, fake restraining orders. We confirmed everything." "That's ridiculous," she barked. "My son is a good man. He would never do something like this." A familiar phrase, the anthem of every parent who refuses to see the truth. "I have documentation," I said. "Screenshots, bank transfers, emails. You don't have to believe me, but the evidence is real." She scoffed. "You're cruel," she hissed. "You broke his heart. Now you want to destroy his life. Well, I won't let you." "I'm done with this conversation," I said firmly. "Please don't call again." When I hung up, my hands were shaking. Anger, exhaustion, a flicker of sadness for a woman who'd rather cling to delusion than acknowledge the son she raised. I blocked her number. The workplace fallout. Monday morning, I walked into my office lobby feeling raw but functional. My receptionist stopped me at the elevator. "There's some woman calling all morning asking for you," she said. Wouldn't give her name. Sounded unstable. I told her you were in a meeting, and she got aggressive. My stomach dropped like a stone. "Did she call more than once?" "4 times, she said. "If she calls again, I'm telling her you're unavailable." "Please do." I knew exactly who it was, and I knew this was only the first escalation. A quiet resolve. That night, after blocking 3 more numbers and double-locking my door, I sat at my dining table with my laptop open, staring at the growing folder of evidence. It was overwhelming. A digital mountain of lies, all threaded together by one man's need for attention, shelter, money, sympathy, whatever he could extract. For months, I had carried his fear like it was my own. Now I carried the truth. And the truth was heavy in a different way, sharp instead of suffocating. I poured myself a glass of water, sat back, and exhaled. This wasn't over, but I wasn't afraid anymore. For the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't reacting to Ryan's chaos. I was preparing for it. Because when a man's entire world is built on lies, being exposed doesn't just shake him. It makes him dangerous. And I could feel the danger coming. By Tuesday morning, the silence felt eerie, like the pause before a storm smashes into the coastline. I sat at my desk at work, trying to focus on quarterly reports when the building receptionist pinged me again. "Hi, Maya," her voice crackled through my desk phone. She called, the same woman from yesterday. My stomach tightened. "What did she say?" I asked. "She asked for you by name, and when I told her you weren't available, she said she'd keep trying until she gets what she wants." A beat. "Maya, is everything okay?" I paused, breath stuck somewhere high in my chest. "Yes," I lied. "I'm handling it." But the truth was, I felt a creeping dread. Someone kept pushing at the edges of my life, trying to find a crack. And I already knew who it was. The letter. When I got home that afternoon, there was a manila envelope stuffed in my mailbox. Legal-sized. Stamped from a downtown law firm. My heartbeat hit my throat. I tore it open with trembling fingers. Inside was a letter printed on formal letterhead. Demand for remedy. Client, Ryan Mitchell. I sank onto my couch as my eyes scanned the lines. I had allegedly caused Ryan emotional distress. I had tarnished his reputation with false statements. I had collaborated with a third party, Melissa, to harass and intimidate him. I owed him $45,000 in damages. I was to issue a public apology retracting all claims. And if I continued to make defamatory assertions, legal action would follow. My hands were shaking so hard the paper rustled. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't confusion. This was a calculated attempt to silence me. A last-ditch effort to claw control back. And worst of all, he had hired an actual attorney to do it. Except, something felt off. The tone was dramatic, too emotional for legal writing. The citations were flimsy, and the signatures, they looked copy-pasted. My gut whispered, he found a lawyer who didn't know the full story. Or he paid for a template letter online and slapped a law office logo on it. Either way, I wasn't handling this alone. Jason reads the letter. Jason was an old friend from college, now a corporate attorney who did pro bono work when he felt like flexing. When I texted him a photo of the letter, he called me within minutes. Maya, he said, this is garbage. Garbage legal action or garbage content? I asked. Both, he said flatly. This letter is posturing. It's meant to scare you, not to stand in court. It's not even written correctly. Half the citations don't belong in a civil harassment claim. My shoulders sagged in relief. So what do I do? You let me handle it, he said. I'll write a response. No charge. He paused. His tone softened. Maya, what exactly happened between you two? I told him everything. Not dramatically, not broken, just plainly, like a witness giving a statement. The stalking lie, the fake police reports, the dual relationships, the fabricated restraining orders, the money he took from Melissa, the manipulation he spun into both of our lives. Jason listened in that quiet lawyer way, absorbing details, parsing for legal landmines. When I finished, he blew out a breath. Jesus, he said, he's worse than a liar. He's a con artist. Yeah, I whispered. We didn't see it until it was too late. You're not at fault, he said. People like him don't just lie. They build a narrative and trap you inside it. I closed my eyes, letting the words sink in deeper than I expected. Jason cleared his throat. I'll have a response drafted tonight, he said. And Maya, don't speak to him, don't reply, not even if he shows up. Okay, and document everything. I already was. Jason's response. His letter arrived in my inbox that night. Professional, precise, devastating. It basically said, Ryan's claims were false. I had merely answered truthfully when asked about the situation. We possess documented evidence proving Ryan's deception. His fake police reports were fraudulent materials. Any continued threats would be met with counterclaims and a request for legal fees. Jason ended with, we strongly recommend your client cease all contact with mine. I read it 3 times. For the first time in days, my lungs expanded fully. Ryan couldn't touch me from here. He'd lost control. And men like him don't cope well with losing control. I mailed the letter certified the next morning. Then I waited. The breakdown. The next shoe dropped on Wednesday. Ashley called me, voice tense. Something happened at the boutique. Ryan worked there part-time, a trendy little clothing store downtown where he spent most of his days performing charm, like it was a job requirement. What happened? I asked. He had a meltdown, Ashley said, in front of customers. I went still. He was crying, yelling about how you and Melissa are ruining his life, saying he feels unsafe, saying he's being targeted. Did someone confront him? I asked quietly. No, he brought it up himself, out of nowhere. Of course he did. It was his favorite tactic. Preemptively play the victim before someone else can tell the truth. What did the manager do? I asked. Ashley hesitated. You're not going to believe this, she said. But the store manager? He's an old friend of Melissa's brother. My eyes widened. He already knew the real story, Ashley continued, and he's been quietly tracking Ryan's behavior for months because something felt off. The universe had aligned for once. They pulled him into the office, Shamai, she said, asked for clarification. Ryan panicked, got caught in 3 different versions of the same lie. A long exhale. He was fired today. I didn't cheer. I didn't celebrate. But a strange, steady calm spread through me. Truth wasn't dramatic. Truth didn't need screaming or revenge. Truth just stood, even when everything else crumbled. The email from Ryan. That evening, around 9 p.m., I checked my inbox one last time before bed. There it was. A long email from Ryan. Subject, you win. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside, it was everything I expected. Accusations. You ruined my life. Self-pity. I have nothing left. Manipulation. I hope you're proud of yourself. Denial. You blew everything out of proportion. Guilt tripping. I never meant to hurt anyone. Not really. A plea. Please, Maya, just tell people it was a misunderstanding. And finally, I can't afford my apartment anymore. I might have to move back home. Are you happy now? When I reached the end, I sat back in my chair and felt nothing. No pain, no sadnesses, no righteous fury. Just the quiet recognition of a man trying to rebuild his power by pulling on every old emotional thread he could find. I forwarded the email to Melissa with a single line. Still playing the victim. A minute later, Melissa, of course he is. He never learned another skill. I closed my laptop and turned off every light in my apartment. For the first time since the lie began, I wasn't afraid of the dark. I was just done. Ryan disappearing for a few days sounded like peace. But with men like him, silence is never peace. Silence is strategy. And on Friday morning, strategy arrived in the form of a new number attempting to FaceTime me at 8:03 a.m., right as I sat down with a bowl of oatmeal, mentally preparing for a gentle, uneventful day. The call flashed once, twice, 3 times. I didn't pick up. Finally, a text arrived. Ryan, pick up, it's important. I blocked the number before the bubbles could appear again. Less than 5 minutes later, Melissa texted me. Melissa, he tried FaceTiming me too. Me, new number? Melissa, yep. Me, he's running out of tactics. Melissa, or escalating. A chill slipped down my spine. The unexpected visit. Around lunchtime, I got an alert from my door camera. Motion detected. I opened the app and froze. Ryan was standing outside my apartment door. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't banging. He wasn't even crying. He was leaning against the hallway wall like he was waiting for an Uber, phone in hand, scrolling. Calm. Casual. Like the building wasn't supposed to be off limits. A slow, creeping dread tightened around my ribs. He wanted me to open the door, or panic, or come outside, or break no contact. Anything that put him back in control. Instead, I tapped the screen to speak through the intercom. Ryan, I said quietly, you cannot be here. He didn't look at the camera, but the corner of his mouth lifted. I just want to talk, he said. No, I replied. Leave, now. His jaw clenched, just a tiny tick, but I saw it. I'm not leaving until you talk to me, he murmured. I didn't respond. I called building security instead. They arrived in under 3 minutes, an eternity and a blink at the same time. When they approached, Ryan finally looked up. What? He barked. I'm not doing anything. You've been asked to leave this property multiple times, the guard said. You're trespassing. This is ridiculous, Ryan scoffed. I'm here to talk to my girlfriend. I stepped closer to the camera so he would see. I am not your girlfriend, I said. He froze, just for a breath, just long enough for me to see the truth. Not heartbreak, not sadness, not even anger. Entitlement. Security escorted him out, and he didn't fight, didn't yell, didn't apologize. He just walked away with his hands in his pockets, shoulders loose, like this was some minor inconvenience. Like he'd be back. The gym incident. Saturday morning. Different gym, different neighborhood, different time of day. I walked in, scanned my card, stepped onto the treadmill, and there he was. Across the gym, on another treadmill, staring straight at me. A sick, electric shock ran through my chest. He didn't approach, didn't wave, didn't speak. Just watched me run, like I was a TV show he'd tuned into. I stepped off the treadmill after 3 minutes and walked straight to the front desk. There's a man here who's following me, I said, breath shaking. He's shown up at my building. He's been calling from different numbers. He's been told to stay away. The staff exchanged uneasy glances. We can't make members leave unless they directly harass someone, one said awkwardly. He's not doing anything actionable. I stared at her, stunned. He's stalking me, I said quietly. She winced. I'm sorry, it's not that we don't believe you. We just can't remove him unless he violates policy. So I changed my policy. I packed my things and left. Blocked 2 more numbers from him that afternoon. Meanwhile, Melissa. Melissa was living her own version of hell. She texted me Sunday morning. Melissa. He showed up at my office building. Again. Me. Did he talk to you? Melissa. He didn't have to. He stood in the lobby staring at the elevators. My receptionist said he claimed he was dropping something off, but he never had anything in his hands. Me. You okay? Melissa. Tired. Mostly tired. Me. File a police report. Melissa. Already did. They told him to leave. If he comes back, they'll escalate. I stepped away from my phone after that. Not because I didn't care, but because caring was now a full-time job and my body felt like a building whose foundation had cracked without me noticing. The attempt to rewrite history. On Monday, Ashley sent me screenshots from Facebook. Ryan had posted a long emotional paragraph about toxic exes, false accusations, and vindictive women teaming up to destroy a good man. His mother, Helen, had shared it with her own commentary. Stand strong, son. The truth always comes out. We protect our own. But the comments under her post? Not what she expected. What exactly happened? I heard this story already from someone else. Are you sure you have all the details? Didn't he borrow money for legal fees and now there were no legal filings? People were asking questions. People were noticing patterns. And Ryan was losing narrative control. Ashley messaged me again. Ashley, his story keeps changing. People are comparing timelines. It's falling apart. Me, it always was. Ashley, his mom is furious. Me, she believes whatever keeps her world stable. Ashley, people are distancing themselves from her too. Me, good. Lies should isolate the liar, not the victims. The final push. Thursday evening, I received an email from Ryan. A different tone this time. Subject, I need help. My eyes scanned the messages. He'd lost his job. He couldn't pay rent. His friends were turning on him. His mother was disappointed. His reputation was ruined. He had nothing left. And then, please, Maya, just tell people this was a misunderstanding. Please, I'll pay you back everything. I'll do whatever you want. It was the closest thing to an apology he'd ever written. But even now, it wasn't an apology. It was desperation. Manipulation wearing the mask of remorse. I forwarded the email to Melissa. Her response came instantly. Melissa, he still hasn't admitted what he did. Me, he won't. Melissa, because admitting it means he loses the last thing he has. Control over the story. Me, exactly. Melissa, so what do we do? Me, nothing. Melissa, nothing? Me, yes, we stop participating. That's how men like him lose everything. It was true. We didn't destroy him. We simply stopped holding up the illusion that protected him. And without our support, his entire world collapsed. I closed my laptop, turned off every light, and stood alone in the quiet of my apartment. For months, I'd lived inside Ryan's fabricated fear. But now, he was the one afraid. He was the one cornered. He was the one unraveling. And I was finally free. The morning after Ryan's last desperate email, the air in my apartment felt different. Not lighter, not healed, but empty, like the tension that once lived there had finally packed its things and left, leaving behind only dust outlines and silence. I brewed coffee, stood in my kitchen in an oversized sweatshirt, stared out the window at the soft orange light warming the neighboring rooftops. For the first time in months, my body wasn't bracing for impact. But peace after chaos doesn't feel like peace. It feels like numbness wearing a blanket. Melissa's update. At 10:22 a.m., my phone buzzed. Melissa, he moved out. Like, fully out. Me, out of the apartment? Melissa, yep, loaded a U-Haul last night. His mom was helping. Me, wow. Melissa, rumor is he's moving back home. Me, of course he is. Melissa, the group chat is wild right now. I took a seat at my dining table, coffee clasped between both hands, and waited for more. It came fast. Melissa, Helen is posting all over Facebook. Me, oh God. Melissa, stuff like, my son was driven out of town by vindictive exes, and men aren't allowed to defend themselves anymore. Me, figures. Melissa, but people are pushing back, asking questions. Me, they should. Melissa, someone pointed out that Ryan's stories about us conflict. Me, they do. Melissa, someone else asked about the legal filings. Me, non-existent. Melissa, and another mentioned he borrowed money from, like, half the friend group. Me, that tracks. Then a final message. Melissa, people are unfriending Helen, quietly, but I've seen at least 6. Me, consequences. Melissa, yeah, they're finally hitting. Me, they always were coming. Melissa, he must hate it. Me, men like him always hate losing the audience. The fallout back home. Later that afternoon, Ashley called. I considered ignoring it. I was tired of Ryan-adjacent conversations. But something in my chest whispered, "Finish the story." "Hey," she said the moment I picked up. "You need to hear this." She explained. Ryan tried to reconnect with old high school friends. Someone had shared screenshots of his posts and ours. People started comparing his stories across different circles. The inconsistencies were glaring. Several old friends blocked him outright. His sister refused to get involved, which for her was basically an indictment. "He's getting frozen out everywhere," Ashley said. "Nobody wants to be collateral damage in whatever narrative he's spinning." I didn't feel joy or vindication, just a quiet sense of inevitability. "You didn't ruin his life," she continued gently. "He built a house out of lies and then got angry when it collapsed." "I know," I said softly. "It was always going to collapse." Therapy and self-repair. It took another week before I finally admitted to myself that I needed help processing it all. Not because I felt broken, but because I didn't want to be shaped by Ryan's shadow. The therapist was warm, perceptive, and had that unnerving ability to ask the exact question you weren't ready to answer. "Why do you think you stayed so long?" she asked in our second session. I stared at the office plant for a long time. "Because he was scared," I said finally, and I thought helping meant staying. "Helping is offering support," she said gently, "not sacrificing your sense of reality." I swallowed hard. "Do you feel angry?" she asked. I nodded, then shook my head, then shrugged. "I feel stupid," I whispered. "You weren't stupid," she said. "You were manipulated. There's a difference." My eyes stung. I blinked hard. Her voice softened even more. "People like Ryan create an emotional vacuum that pulls others in. The empathy you showed wasn't weakness. It's a good thing, Maya. It just wasn't meant for him." I let that sit in my chest, warm and painful. Melissa's new chapter. One afternoon, she texted me out of nowhere. "Melissa, I went on a date. Me." "Oh?" Melissa. "It was nice." Me. "I'm proud of you." Melissa. "Still terrified, but nice." Me. "Slow is fine. Slow is good." Melissa. "Are you dating?" Me. "No, not yet. Not ready." Melissa. "That's okay." We ended up texting for over an hour. Not about Ryan. About our lives, our work, our hobbies, our plans for the weekend. It felt strangely grounding to talk to the woman who had been weaponized against me in a story neither of us agreed to play roles in. Sometimes healing looks like two women comparing what they lost and finding comfort in the shared grief. Tiny steps forward. I changed gyms, updated my phone privacy settings, deleted old photos I'd been too numb to deal with before, washed the last sweatshirt he left behind and donated it. Little things, small wins, quiet victories. The kind that feel like reclaiming square inches of your own life. One evening, I sat on my couch with my favorite candle lit and soft music playing and realized I wasn't checking my hallway camera. I wasn't waiting for my phone to buzz. I wasn't replaying conversations in my head. I was just existing. And that felt revolutionary. The final message. 2 weeks after he moved out, a message arrived from a number I didn't recognize, but I didn't need to. I knew the cadence before I even opened it. Ryan. "I hope you're happy. You got what you wanted. My life is ruined. I'll never trust anyone again. I hope someday you feel what it's like to lose everything. Karma is real, and it's coming." I stared at it for a long time. Not with sadness, not with fear, not with guilt. Just with a strange, hollow clarity. Then I typed, "Me. I told the truth when people asked me what happened. You ruined your own life by lying to everyone in it. Good luck." Blocked. For the last time. The lessons that survive. It's been 6 weeks. The dust has settled. Life has rearranged itself into something calmer. The therapist tells me my boundaries are stronger now, my instincts sharper, my empathy radar, as she calls it, will recalibrate. I know she's right. I don't hate Ryan. He doesn't get that much space in my heart. What I feel is a distant sadness that someone thinks manipulation is a form of survival. But mostly, I feel done. Done with the lies, done with the fear, done with the guilt that never belonged to me, done with stories that weren't mine. I walk through my days differently now, more grounded, more cautious, but not closed. I laugh again, real laughs. I trust again, slowly. I exist again, fully. And if anyone ever tells me about a crazy ex, a stalker, or a past filled with drama and villains, I listen, carefully, critically. Then I ask for details, timelines, receipts, facts. Because sometimes the person claiming to be stalked is the one holding the puppet strings. And the truth, the real truth, always comes out eventually.